Kubel talking about the new transport typeface. Welcome.
Good morning, thanks for coming. I'm Henrik Kubel. I'm partner in ATypI, a design studio based in London. We are two people, Scott Williams and myself. ATypI is the platform we use to release our fonts. I also release fonts with Village in New York and Playtype in Copenhagen. This is Margaret Calvert. She is a great friend and close collaborator. You'll hear a lot more about her in the next 20 minutes. New transport is not replacing the alphabet that's already on the existing signs of the British motorways and street signs. New transport is an adaptation of the original letters and is done in very close collaboration with Margaret. This is the structure of today's lecture. I'm going to talk about the history for about 10 minutes because it's important. I'm then going to go on and show you the archive and source material. I'm going to talk about the fonts in detail. I'll then show you a specimen, and then I have two projects where it's been applied live. So, the design of the transport lettering was a 6-year commission. It started in '58 and it finished in 1964. So, in 1958, Jock Kinnear and Margaret Calvert received an invitation from the Ministry of Transport to design the signs for Britain's new motorways. Britain were expanding their infrastructure and followed Germany in the construction of new motorways, starting with the Preston Bypass motorway, followed by the M1. Signing the motorways became a major issue as the current signs would fail to meet the needs of motorists travelling at high speed. Sir Colin Anderson, having worked with Jock Kinnear on the design of a labelling system for P&O Orient Line, and aware of Margaret and Jock's work on Gatwick Airport signing system, approached Jock on behalf of the committee with a completely open brief, apart from the request to use white lowercase lettering on a blue background in line with Germany. After what must have been a stormy initial meeting, Jock received the following letter from Sir Colin, and I'm reading: "I'm anxious you shouldn't embark upon inventing an alphabet of a character quite new. We have, as a committee, got into the habit of accepting the general weight and appearance of the German alphabet as being the sort of thing we need. I think, therefore, something on those lines is what the committee believes it wants." Letter dated the 26th of June, 1958. Jock Kinnear and Margaret Calvert ignored this specific request, believing that the German sans serif designed by an engineer, although demonstrably effective, would not sit well in the English landscape. So, they started from scratch with a specification for the ideal letter form. Having looked at other possibilities, including adapting the typeface accident grotesque, which was a major influence regarding proportion and overall appearance, they, in brackets Margaret Calvert specifically, started designing a new alphabet. Important details such as the curve on the end of the L, borrowed from Johnston, and the obliquely cut curved strokes on the letters A, C, E, F, G, J, R, S, T, and Y were specifically designed to retain the word shape of place names when slightly letter spaced. This was a necessary compromise to offset the effect of halation when viewed at the appropriate decision-making distance in the full glare of headlights. Very much like a Rembrandt portrait with brushstrokes merging to focus the image. This specific letter form, an alphabet, after 2 attempts and in 2 weights, was officially named Transport. After the official opening of the Preston bypass motorway in 1959, the new signs soon came under fire from the lettering establishment. Notably, the letter cutter David Kindersley, who, uninvited, had for some time been working on a new serif letter form, in caps only, specifically for use in black letters on a white background. He was passionate in his belief that his oddly weighted serif alphabet was the ultimate answer regarding both legibility and economy. Kindersley's unprofessional intervention succeeded in generating a heated debate in the letter columns of several respectable newspapers, gaining support from such luminaries as Stanley Morrison and other outraged designers with traditional views. However, Design magazine was quick to counter with a positive comment in the favour of Jock and Margaret's alphabet, especially Herbert Spencer and Colin Forbes, who made a strong case for modernism. Thus, the scene was set, and in true British democratic fashion, despite public acclaim and the full support of the committee, tests were soon initiated by the Road Research Laboratory to settle the issue. So, this is a boxing match between typefaces. Rather comically, several volunteer airmen from Benton Airport in Oxfordshire found themselves seated on a tier platform in the middle of an airfield, while a car drove towards them with alternative combinations of signs mounted on the roof composed of place names. In Kindersley, Transport, and for good measure, the 1933 Johnson-based standard, still to be found in some parts of London. Ironically, Kindersley's serif letters proved to be 3% more legible than Transport. A small amount given the unrealistic conditions governing the test. As a consequence, the ultimate choice rested on appearance. In the words of one observer, Kindersley's letters were just so ugly. I just want to say, I'm actually a big fan and admirer of David Kindersley's work. I just don't think he was right for this job. I'm going back to history now. It was T.G. Osborne, a far-sighted civil servant serving the committee, who succeeded in persuading the ministry to set up a second committee, chaired by Sir Walter Warboys, to take the entire road network into account. This made good sense, as the system dictating the layout of the signs based on the width of the capital letter I, which Jock Kinnear so brilliantly devised, would quite naturally accommodate other route classifications and signs. Jock always maintained that this system was through good fortune more than forethought. In Margaret's words, having worked so closely with Jock, it was more likely his innate ability to marshal a complex number of factors based on common sense into an elegant and comprehensive statement. The Warboys report, published in 1963, was presented to Parliament by the Minister of Transport, Ernest Marbles, during the premiership of Sir Harold Macmillan on the 9th of December 1964. It came into effect on the 1st of January 1965. under the title The Traffic Sign Regulations and General Directions 1964, 6 years after the first meeting of the Anderson Committee. So, there you have it. That's the full story, the full history of transport lettering in Margaret's own words as she remembered it in 2006. Now we're going to fast forward some 50 years, if my slides will follow. I'm going to show you archive material that I've been researching and recording photographically as part of the work I've been doing with Margaret. This is a box of 13 maquettes in the archive of St. Bride's Library in London. They are hand-painted on artboard and gouache. I'm showing you this small film so you can see the scale of these. They're absolutely beautiful and very, very delicate. Some close-ups. These were used for presenting the alphabet and the signing system to the various committees approving this work back in the 60s. This is from Margaret's personal archive. It's sign makers' posters. They're huge. They're like 1.5 meters by 1 meter. There's one with uppercase letters showing the tiling system. And if my slides will follow, there's one with lowercase letters. This is what happens when you use large images. Let's see. These two posters emerged during my research. They're in the archive of the central they're in the central lettering archive at Central St. Martin's, and Catherine Dixon and Phil Baines are looking after that and these, and they very kindly lent me the posters for photographing. What we see here is in Margaret's private collection. It's a box of glass negatives. There's 12 in total, and they are my direct source above any for the work I've done. Here's a close-up of the caps, and here's a close-up of the lowercase. I didn't break this one. Margaret works by hand, and when we started off this project, we've been working on it for 3 years. During the whole process, she's been, let's say, reconnecting with her original design. These are very recent drawings of key letters in the alphabet, and they inform the design I done on screen, of course. What we can see is that she's still working with the letter groups, the spacing, the kerning, and the various weights. Absolutely beautiful pieces of artwork. This is my way of connecting with the font. I have a private collection of signs, motorway signs as well. This is to show the original, and the background and the red outline is new transport, which I'll talk about now. I'll talk about the fonts in detail, and then I'll show you a specimen and then go on to applications. It's designed in 6 weights, going from black to off-white. Following the system we introduced in 2010 with New Braille Alphabet, which was also a collaboration with Margaret Kubel. We designed italics to go with the fonts. This slide is important because it's designed on the computer but by hand. So the top row is what the computer does and the bottom row is what I do. So they are slanted but hand-drawn italics. This is the very basic character set. All the fonts I equipped with very large character sets, and they support most languages. I'll show this slide just to highlight the fact that we included non-lining figures, which we think will work great in text. So our intention is very much for this typeface not just to be used in large scale, but to work across a range of media, including screen and book typography. Here's some paragraphs. You can see more lines together going through the width. This slide is to show how the glyphs align across the weights, and also to highlight the fact that the X height kind of grows a little bit the bolder it gets. It's an optical effect that ensures the font looks the same in small point. Quite recently, I lowered the X height on the bolder weights, which was very time consuming, but I believe it was the right decision. All the fonts come with a set of small caps. This slide shows the proportion of those. My personal preference for this specific style of font is to have them between the capital letters and the lowercase. This is a small detail, nevertheless very important. The tiny ink traps on letters that makes it just works in small font. So the next couple of slides is not that much to say. I'm going to show you it's a specimen. It's showing the fonts, how they could be applied, how they could work. What we see here is the very lightweight, the off-white. This is the black. I promised Margaret not to do any signs, but I couldn't help myself. I have this original sign in my studio, so I did a digital copy of it. I think the fact that it hasn't been designed makes it work. So this is New Transport Bold. The quote on this slide is from a work by David Strictly. The work makes itself, the work does not make itself. I am hoping to include that into my collection soon. Electromagnetic radiation is the scientific way of describing light. So I thought I would put it in New Transport Light and in italic. I spend a lot of time on drawing the numbers, so they kind of deserve their own slide, I thought. I am New Transport White. This is the 5th weight in the range of fonts. This is the final and lightest weight. It's called Off-White. I'm working on a stencil because it's good fun. It's not likely to be released. However, this will be released. I'm drawing Greek, or have been, and I'm using Jerry from Reading as a consultant on this part of the job. I'm drawing Cyrillic for all the weights, and I'm using Paratype in Russia as a consultant. I'm on time, that's quite extraordinary. And I'm going to finish off showing 2 projects where the fonts have been applied. The first one is gov.uk. So late last year, very early this year, the government commissioned us to design two weights especially for them for use on all their websites. It's called GDS Transport and it's exclusively for them. Margaret Calvert was a consultant on the project for them, and we're very pleased to see that it works across everything. It's been beautifully hinted by Monica Bartels and front work in Berlin. The final slide is from a very large exhibition called Extraordinary Stories About Ordinary Things, which our design studio in London did. We did all the signage and the identity. And if you are in London, it's a semi-permanent exhibition, so it will be on until 2014. So if you are there, please go, because part of the original archive and the stuff that I've been showing here today is on display, so you can have a close look yourself. That's the end. Thank you very much.